if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So the worst thing that could happen is that it's not a success, and that's okay. That's a learning experience.
That's Marianne Hamilton. She and Kyle Case join me today on episode 30 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast as we talk about celebrating life and active aging. Welcome to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast, a show that celebrates women over the age of 40 who want to live a kick-ass life. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, and I'll be bringing you inspiring conversations and practical advice with a little bit of humor and random 80s references mixed in. Join me as we redefine these middle years to start living with newfound joy and purpose while turning our maybe someday dreams into today. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for returning to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I am so excited that you are here, and I am really excited today to introduce to you two guests. I am so honored to have two guests on the show today. I have Kyle Case and Marianne. I just totally scrolled past your last name. I'm sorry. There we go. Marianne Hamilton. And they are coming to us and talking about the Huntsman World Senior Games. You guys, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Well, Liz, thank you for having us. We're both very excited to visit with you, and looking forward to it.
Liz, it's an honor to be with you today.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I think I had one other show where I had multiple guests, so I always think it's fun. We have a lot of energy and we have a lot of fun things to talk about today. And before we get started, I would like for both of you to just take a minute, introduce yourself, tell me who you are, and what you do, and yeah, so just who wants to kick it off? Kyle, you're the one that reached out to me, so I'll let you go first.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Normally we would say ladies first, but in this case, I'll just jump right in so we can get moving. So you know, I am what they call the CEO of the Huntsman World Senior Games. I've been working in the sports management and event management business for about 15 or 16 years, 11 of them here with the Huntsman World Senior Games. And it's just been a joy for me to be a part of something that is so important to so many people. And, you know, I think all of us want to wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to try to do some good today. And at the end of the day, hopefully we've been able to do that. And this job has definitely allowed me to feel that way. Like there's a lot of good in the world, and we're a small piece of it. And so the path that I've taken to get here has been varied, like everybody. I've done a lot of different things, but I feel like this is where I want to be, and just love helping people and meeting people and interacting with people, especially those who are as passionate about sports and active aging and health and wellness as I am.
Well, let's see. I am a lifetime journalist by trade, and was someone who never ever considered herself at all an athlete or physically fit. I certainly wasn't for the most part of my life, and that's maybe a whole story for later on in our discussion. But I became in later life an athlete, and I encountered the Huntsman World Senior Games about 8 years ago, and have been competing here in St. George at the Games ever since, and that's how I met Kyle. And in the interim, I've become one of the race directors here at the Games. My husband and I are actually the race walking and power walking director and co-director. He's the co-director, assistant director, and I'm the director. Kind of cool. And I do a lot of crazy things in the community. I serve on our local arts commission and another group that identifies public art in St. George, and I'm a water fitness instructor, and I write for a couple of publications, and just try and keep myself as busy as possible. And working with the Huntsman World Senior Games has been truly one of the most fulfilling and wonderfully happy aspects of my life. It's just it's a real joy to be here doing this every day.
Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about the Huntsman World Games, or is it Huntsman World Senior Games, or Huntsman?
Yeah, yep, you're saying it exactly right.
Okay.
And yes, I'd love to tell you a little bit about it. The Huntsman World Senior Games were founded in 1987, and I love to tell this story because to me this is just one of those great examples of a back of the napkin American success stories. Our founder, his name was John Morgan. He owned a hotel here in St. George, Utah, and he was, as a hotelier and as a businessman, he was interested in being successful, and as a hotelier and getting people to stay in his hotel, and so was always looking for kind of an angle there and a way to make that happen. And one day he and some friends were sitting around the table at the restaurant there at the hotel just talking about ideas on how to get people to come to St. George, Utah and stay in the St. George Hilton Hotel. And they came up with a variety of different brainstormed ideas, but the one that stuck was this idea of a senior Olympic type event. And so in 1987, they hosted the first event. They had about 6 or 7 sports and a couple of hundred athletes that competed. And from that humble beginning, the Games have grown to be the largest Olympic-style multi-sport event in the entire world for athletes age 50 and over. And currently we host about 11,000 athletes. We offer 30 different sports, and the athletes do come from all around the world. We've had athletes from 87 different countries that have competed in the event. And just last year alone, we had 34 different countries that were represented. And we do everything from archery to volleyball and pretty much everything that you can think of in between. And the only requirement is to be 50 years old. There's not a qualifier. It's an open event, so people can come. And, Liz, you mentioned maybe sports isn't the thing that you focused on, and that's fine. We have all kinds of levels of competition here at the Games, everything from beginners, people who maybe played a year in high school and then, went on with their life and want to get back into it, all the way up to, world-class athletes who come every year and set world records in their age categories. And I think, Liz, one of the things that's made our event so successful over the years is that wherever it's possible, we try really hard to get people in the same age and skill level. So age is easy. That's just a function of your calendar. But we try really hard to get people in the same skill level. So there's no guarantee that you go home with a medal, but we want to give you at least a legitimate shot at it. And I think people really respond well to that and appreciate that and enjoy the competition, but also just enjoy the friendship and the camaraderie that comes from it.
Yeah. I would guess that you probably have a lot of repeat competitors. I mean, that's just my guess. Is that correct?
We do. We track that, obviously, and we have about 80% of our athletes that compete on any given year have been here before at the Games. So that's a great return rate, and we do track. We one of the things that we really try to celebrate is longevity. A senior event, we just really appreciate those that stick with it for as long as they can. And we actually have 6 athletes who have competed in every one of the Huntsman World Senior Games. We call them our 100%ers.
Oh, wow.
And that's amazing. If you think about that, our first year, the requirement was 55. And then the next year, it dropped to 50 years old. But if you are 55 years old, at least, as a minimum, some of them were older, and you have done something for the last 33 years, you have done something. So we think that's great. And then, of course, we celebrate every 5-year increment starting at 15 years. So we do a commemorative ring for those who have competed for 15 years, a watch for those who compete for 20 years. We have a very beautiful red sandstone trophy for the 25-year celebration. And then we offer a letterman's jacket for the 30-year people. And we're going to have to come up with a 35 here in a couple of years. So kind of a really, really exciting and cool thing that we do that is just a way for us to celebrate that longevity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, I just thought about that. I was like, okay, so if they started at 55 and they're still competing, that is amazing. That's
Well, you're getting up to 90, almost 90 for a lot of those that are at the level. So pretty cool.
So, so that to me is like, quote, senior games. And I know I wrote to you about this. I was like, all right, why is it called senior games? Because I'm only 52 and I don't consider myself a senior.
Sure. Well, so we like to think of it in terms of like a senior executive or a senior, someone who has some experience, but the cream of the crop and the best of the best. That's the way we like to look at it. But actually, as far as sporting events are concerned, there is a masters movement that, depending on your sport, starts at about 30 or 35, depending on which sport you're talking about. And senior is just within that sporting community. Senior is a designation that is given to 50 and plus. So not something that we came up with, but we just follow the convention.
And Liz, I wanted to chime in and let you know that the first year that I competed, I have to say I really struggled with the whole idea of I'm going to the what?
Right.
Yeah. But my husband and I had been looking online for race walking competitions because that's my weird sport, and there aren't that many places nationally where one can compete in race walking. And Doug happened to find the Huntsman World Senior Games, and I looked at it and thought, oh, the pictures looked amazing, all the competitions looked fabulous, and it looked like a really beautifully produced event, which it is. But then I thought, the Huntsman World Games, and I really, kind of kept getting stuck on that. But we signed up and came out to St. George, and the very, very first minute that we walked into the packet pickup venue, and I saw all these amazingly fit, healthy, happy people who were, of a certain age, I thought, oh, okay, I get it. And then throughout the 2 weeks of the competition, I totally understood the whole idea of senior games, and I was immediately very, very proud to be a part of it and have been ever since. So I've sort of become an evangelist for it, I guess. and I think it's a really wonderful thing to be a part of, for sure.
So how long have you been involved, Marianne?
Since 2011.
Okay. So I'm getting a little nosy here, but did you move to St. George?
Did, yes. We were living in Silicon Valley back in 2011 and competed here for 3 years in a row. And the third year that we were driving into St. George, I was telling Kyle earlier that we saw the Red Rocks, and it's just a spectacularly beautiful place anyway. And I looked at my husband and said, what are we worried about a mortgage in California for? Let's just move here. And he looked at me and said, what? He had taught school in Park City some years ago and loves Utah, but I had never lived any place except California in my life, and so he, of course, thought I couldn't ever be convinced to move. And we had that discussion, and so every minute that we weren't competing that year at the games, we were out looking for a house and went home, put our home on the market, and we're here 3 months later. And we've been here now for a little over 4 years and have not regretted it for 1 nanosecond. It's been fabulous.
It's funny, Liz. With the 11,000 athletes, you don't get a chance to meet everyone. We try to, as a staff, meet as many as we can, and through that, you definitely develop relationships and friendships. But I remember meeting Marianne on the first games that they competed. She tends to stand out in a crowd because she's so amazing and she's awesome, and she wears a sparkly skirt.
Sparkly running skirt, yes.
So I remember meeting her, and she was just raving about our event, and of course we want people to have that experience, and so it was nice to get that feedback. And then I ran into her and her husband again at the National Senior Games that were being held in Palo Alto that year, and again, same thing. They're just such a great couple, and it was just fun to run into them. But she said, we're kind of considering moving to St. George, and
I said, oh no,
I didn't. A lot of people say that. They come, and it's a beautiful event, and they're having such a great time. A lot of people say that, but she came back that third year and said, we've got a real estate agent.
Wow.
And it was right after that when they just, like she said, they sold their home and they moved here, and they've been a real asset, not only to our event, but to our community. So we're glad that we could be a small part of bringing them here to our town.
Well, it's a beautiful town, Marianne. I know that I shared this with Kyle, but I've actually been to St. George. I drove through. I know that we stopped as well. I was in Las Vegas, and we decided to do the best part of a Vegas trip and drive up to Utah and visit Zion National Park. So actually, this was several years ago, and actually a couple or a marriage ago. So
Okay.
Anyway,
moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. You'll learn that I stumble on my words quite a bit and share things I probably shouldn't share. But anyway, I do remember this was a lovely trip, and I do remember stopping in St. George and thinking, "Wow, it is gorgeous here." So I think
it is an artist and photographer's delight for sure.
Definitely. So now that everybody wants to move to St. George, so Marianne, so you talk about race walking. So you obviously were doing race walking before because you were looking for a competition. How long had you been doing that?
I've been doing it about 23 years, maybe. I had been a jogger earlier in life. Well, I guess probably late 30s, early 40s. And let me step back. I had never, ever been athletic until really I got into my 40s. And, as a child, I was really just, consuming vast quantities of peanut butter sandwiches and reading Nancy Drew books. And, I had acne glasses, the whole 9 yards, and weighed about 150 pounds, 50 pounds more than I weigh now, I guess, in high school and college. And so it was not ever anything in my consciousness to think of myself as an athlete. But when I got into my late 30s, I decided to jog a little bit, and I never was very fast at it, but kind of thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And then some years later, I got involved in lifting weights, which I thought was really, really pretty wonderful because I could see a pretty dramatic difference very quickly. And then I tend to be a little obsessive about some things in my life, so I started lifting weights too much and too frequently, and I ended up tearing a disc out of my neck and had to have a cervical fusion. And my neurosurgeon said, well, no more weightlifting and no more running. And that was pretty devastating to hear for me because I'd finally managed to get a handle on my weight and was feeling kind of better about myself. So during rehab, I started walking and then started walking a little faster and then a little faster. And then for whatever reason, I just my body kind of fell into what I later learned was race walking technique. And then fast forward, I was able to train with a couple of former Olympic race walkers who helped me with that technique and started competing around the Bay Area where we were living. And golly gee, winning a couple of the races, and that was pretty cool. So that was how we found the Huntsman World Senior Games. And by that time, I was definitely old enough to qualify. And out of all of that has come, this whole new part of my life that I never, ever anticipated. I'll be 66 in November, and to, become a fitness instructor and to become a walking coach and to do all the things that we're doing now and a race director, it just wasn't anything that I ever could have envisioned in my wildest dreams earlier in life. But I think, when women get into their 40s and 50s, you kind of decide, maybe I'm not that person I used to be, and maybe I want to be this other person, more fulfilled in life. And I think that's what happened. And it's been pretty exciting. Yeah.
That's exactly how the show started. So that was my journey as well. And I just felt like there had to be other women out there. And I was listening to another podcast, and this is really interesting because on my show, we talk a lot. I mean, I've had guests on, and we talk about menopause and the changes that happen as we're hitting midlife. And I heard on another podcast, and I never thought about this before, about how as women, when we're pregnant, how we just naturally and without question take care of our bodies in such a tender and loving way. Like we get more sleep, we eat better, we don't eat the sugar or the the things that are not good for us. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are, and we hit this midlife time, and we still carry on the way that we've been doing, and then we wonder why we're having all these problems with weight gain and that kind of stuff. And it really had me thinking, and it's interesting because I listened to that and I thought, you know what, she's exactly right. Like, what am I doing to take care of myself? And so I went out and I joined a gym, and I've been walking on the treadmill because it's 100 and whatever here in Texas. And so yeah, it's just interesting and I love that your story kind of includes that. It's just kind of like this transformation of getting older and just realizing that you wanted something and found something that you love. And
well, and I salute you for deciding to take care of yourself. I think women in particular spend a great deal of our lives taking care of everybody else, and especially when we're raising families and all of that. And we kind of end up being, last in line for the whole self-care thing. So I applaud you. That's great.
And, Liz, when you and I started talking, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I listened to some of your shows, and I kind of got an idea of what your goal was and what your message was. Marianne really just came to my mind, because if there's anyone who exemplifies midlife schmidlife, I just felt like it was Marianne, and I love what you said, and I love her example. And I feel like, even I'm the, kind of the odd wheel here. I'm the guy in the conversation, but
we still love you, Krause.
But
okay.
Thank you. One of the things that I love about my job and being involved in this is that we in so many ways can become that motivation to create that change that sometimes is necessary because of what you ladies have talked about. And I love being a part of that. We have our average age is probably 63. I think that's about where we're at on an average age. So, that makes sense. That's when people retire, and that's kind of when they have more time to do the things. But if you think about, a 63, 64, 65-year-old woman, in many, many cases, those women did not have an opportunity to compete in high school or in college that was pre-Title IX. And, some of them maybe played on their brother's baseball team until they got too old, and then they couldn't anymore because the coaches wouldn't let them or whatever.
We were told not to.
You were told not to.
It wasn't appropriate for ladies.
Yeah, and so now here we are. These ladies are such pioneers in so many ways, and I love it. I love that these ladies come and they play on softball teams and basketball teams, and they run track events, and they're swimming in the pool, and they're walking and race walking and running, and it's like this resurgence of youth in so many ways, and I love that our event gets to be a part of that, especially for women. And of course, we want to offer the same thing to men as well, but men have always had those opportunities, and there's so many women at that age that didn't. Now, our younger women, the 50 and the 51, 52, some of them have been beneficiaries of Title IX, and so we're going to get to see a lot more of that coming through over the next several years. But I have loved being a part of that pioneering opportunity to give to women. And, as you've been talking about, Liz, to just look at midlife and say, hey, I don't have to be defined by anything that's happened before. I get to define what happens after. And it's just been really cool to see and to be a part of that.
Yeah, that would be really, really inspiring, I would think, because I know that when we were talking earlier, I mentioned how when I was going to school and growing up, girls just didn't play sports, or if they did, there was a stigma around the girls that did. And so, and it's a shame, really, when I think back about, just how that was. And I see girls now like running on soccer fields, and, there's no stigma around it. It's just kind of like move your body and celebrate movement and competition and all that brings with that. And I'm just so glad that things have changed.
Oh, for sure. It's so lovely that, PE classes now are something to be celebrated instead of being endured or feared,
Right.
which is where I was in elementary school and high school. I hated it. I was always the last person picked for any team, and it was just humiliating. So I am so thrilled to see this whole evolution in how women think about being active and fit and healthy at every age.
Right. Don't you want to just don't you wish you could just that picture that you shared with me, just take it to your PE coach and just say, look at this. I did it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. At least my high school reunion,
There you go. I was wondering if any inspiring stories come to mind, if there's anything that you want to share, if maybe it's with yourself. I mean, certainly we've already shared some for sure, but if you don't have to name names, but if there's another athlete that you know of or an experience that you've had.
There are so many of those. I was going to, yes, the very, very first year that I competed, I was watching this couple, and they were, kind of at the back of the pack, and they were walking together. We have 3 race walking events, 1,500 meter, 3,000 meter, and a 5,000 meter. And the first 2 are on a track, and then the 5,000 meter is out on a road course that we put up on the road in a neighborhood, or in our case, at the old airport now. In any case, the couple was moving kind of slowly, and I didn't know anybody at that point, but I started asking about them later on and found out that, the wife had just given the husband one of her kidneys.
Oh, my goodness.
Weeks before, and they were still here, and they were competing. They weren't racing, but they were participating, and I thought, it just brought me to tears. I thought that was so symbolic of what this whole competition is all about, supporting each other and participating no matter what obstacles you face. And I've seen other athletes in our games. One gentleman one year had open heart surgery, and then he came back the next year, and he just had prostate cancer treatment, and he's out there with a big smile on his face at the back of the pack, just happy as he could be to be there. And we hear everybody out here pretty much has a story, because after the age of 50, sometimes the hubcaps start to fall off. So.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I would just emphasize and reiterate that. Having been involved with the event for 11 years, I've seen so many just amazing and inspiring things. My very first year when I came, I was out at the swimming pool, and my wife was with me, and I got called away to take care of something that had happened. I don't remember what it was, but I got called away, and so my wife told me the story, but she happened to just be standing there next to the scorer's table, and there was I guess there was a discrepancy or a misunderstanding on how the laps were counted on one of the races, and one of the gentlemen was there just trying to get confirmation on, did he swim one too many laps or one too few, and they were just kind of sorting that out, those kinds of things that happen in all events. And after it got resolved, which it did get resolved, he asked the scorer if he could keep the paper that had his time on it. And my wife said, "Oh, do you want to take that home and show your friends?" And he said, "No, I'm going to take this home and show my doctor." And
I love it.
But then he went on to say, a year or so ago, I had some heart trouble, and they wanted to put a pacemaker in. And when they said that they were going to do that, I asked if I would still be able to swim, and the doctor said, "Well, no, because it affects this muscle and this muscle." And he said, "Well, then you got to find another place to put it, because I'm going to keep swimming." And so they actually placed the pacemaker in a slightly different place than they normally do, so that he could continue to swim. And he wanted to show his doctor that he had done it. And I've always loved that story. Another one, just quickly, we have an athlete who's in her early 90s. Her name is, and I'll use names on this one, her name is Dottie Gray. Mm-hmm. And Dottie. Yeah, everyone knows and loves Dottie. She really is a celebrity here at the games. But she's in her early 90s. She's turning 93 this year, and she just keeps going. She competes in our road races, in our 5K. She competes in track and field. 2 years ago, she had an opportunity to try to break a world record for the 5,000 meters, the 3,000 meters in track and field. We had Good Morning America that was here covering the event, and she did it. And she is another example of this concept, Liz, of midlife schmidlife. She wasn't overly athletic as a young woman, and then she had her family and she raised her kids. She had 6 kids, so she was very busy, and I'm sure that she was running around to basketball games and soccer matches and things like that. But after her kids grew up, she decided that she was going to do something different. So she decided running was her thing, and she ran the Boston Marathon and was in her 70s when she ran it and got a lot of attention because she was 70. But that was 22 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
She's still out running to this day. So she's an amazing inspiration. Love Dottie and what she stands for. And if I could, Liz, just one more quick personal story. My mom's another example of what we're just talking about here. Again, she didn't have opportunities to compete. Her dad was a very good baseball player and was even recruited to play on a professional baseball team that he turned down at the time because he just thought, that's a lot of time on the road and it's time for me to settle down. But a very good athlete, and he had a son that was a very good athlete as well, and 2 daughters that they just didn't have those opportunities like we've talked about. And then my mom got married, and she had 6 kids as well, and she was chasing us everywhere. We were very involved in sports and different things. All of my brothers wrestled. We all played football. My family was a very active family and typical of most, I think. But when I started with this job, I started to work on my mom and said, Mom, you need to just pick a sport. It doesn't matter what it is, but just pick something, and let's get you down here and compete. And, of course, I was asking my dad to do the same thing. But my mom was the one who finally let out and said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I'll just, I can't really play basketball, and I don't know much about softball, but I do know that I can run. And so she started training, and it really became something that in a lot of ways has changed her life. But she came the very first year, just to show you how competition was so not a part of what she was used to doing for herself. She lined up on the starting line at our 5K race, and the gun went off, and she took off. And she told me after the race was over, she felt embarrassed passing people. Like she didn't want to hurt their feelings. And so she just,
that's how it works in a race. Yeah.
So she just stayed behind him the whole time. But at the end of the race, she said, "But you know what, Kyle? Next year I'm coming back and I'm going to race." And so she did. She trained all year long, and what she would do is she'd wake up in the morning and go to our church, and she would just run around the gym. She had counted out how many paces it was to get 3.1 miles,
Oh, my gosh.
So she practiced in that gym, and she ran every morning and went around and around, and she came feeling like, okay, I've been running and I'm ready to go. What she failed to remember was that on a road race there are contours, and you have slight uphills and slight downhills. And when she went out to run, I was there, and my dad was there, and my wife was there, and my kids were there to cheer her on. And I could see in her eyes there was a determination. She was definitely going to go for it. And she went out, and I was kind of taking care of little things that come up as they do. And then runners started to finish, and so I was there watching, and I was watching for age groups that came in, and we saw that the first runner in her age group finished, and that's okay. She can still get the silver or the bronze, and then the second runner finished, and the third runner, and that's okay. It's not about the medals. It's about the experience, And then I kind of got called away again, and then I came back over to the finish line, and I saw this woman come around the corner, and you could just tell that she had given everything that she had. Her knees were locked. She was bent over at the waist. She was literally just about to fall down. And I, as the event organizer, I ran over to see if I could help this woman. And as I got closer, I realized that was my mom.
Oh, no.
I've told people before, I have never been more proud or terrified at the same time. in my life to see my mom in this condition. And I went over to her and I grabbed her elbow and I kind of helped her stand up. And she, like I said, she had given everything. She had given everything that she had to this race. And, again, not being a competitor, she hadn't really fueled correctly. And there were a few things that she probably should have done differently. But I grabbed her by the elbow and I said, Mom, it's okay. Take some deep breaths. You're going to be fine. And I kind of walked her around the corner. And as soon as she saw the finish line, she just elbowed me, literally just elbowed me right out of the way.
Love it.
And ran and crossed that line. And she's competed a couple of times since then and actually won some medals. And she's become a runner, like this crazy thing. I never, as a dumb teenage boy, I never saw my mom in that light. But now that I've seen that, it's, again, just so inspiring for me to see her do this thing that was not part of her persona or identity when I knew her growing up, but has become a part of what she is now.
Right.
And it's so inspiring, and we see so many things like that every year at the games.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great story. Actually, it brought back memories because I did run a 5K one time, and I trained with my friend, and so I'm north of Dallas where it's just flat. Actually, the name of the town is Plano because it's Indian for plain, right? So it's like flat. And we ran in Dallas, which is hilly, and so I was totally not expecting it. So I could, when you were explaining that story, I was like, oh, I remember that feeling.
Right,
it's like, what is this hill doing? And it offers a whole new perspective on your training. For sure. Oh, that's just such a great story. I'm just sitting here smiling, thinking of that.
Well, I hadn't heard that one either. That's a terrific.
Well, and like I said, it really was. It just continues to be a motivation and an inspiration to me, and it's so fun as you grow up. And I know, you ladies can relate to this, but you start to see your parents in such a different light. As you have kids, and then as they become teenagers, especially, you start to realize some of what your mom might have gone through with you, but to see her now as an athlete it's just inspiring. I don't have another word for it, but I love it. And again, we get a chance to see that so often at the games, but I think the message there is that it's accessible and available to anybody if you make that decision. And you may not set world records, you may not win a medal, but you can define the person that you want to be. And, now's the time. It's like they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? It's 20 years ago, but the second best time is to plant it today, right? And you get that chance. You get to be the person that you want to be because it is your decision to make.
Sure. Yeah. And Liz, we have so many folks. I mean, in every competition, there are 3 medals, right? Gold, silver, and bronze. And we might have 100 people signed up for that event. And so clearly, the odds of winning a medal are not, always in your favor. But people come back year after year after year after year, and they're consistently at the back of the pack. They don't care. The whole experience of just being there, being part of that whole community of people who are celebrating health and life and fitness at every age, you just can't. You want to bottle it and take it home with you.
Right. Yeah, it was
pretty magical.
I was thinking that, I think it would be doubtful, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, that people actually go thinking, oh, I'm gonna win a gold. I'm sure that there are people who train for that, but I would think that it's the whole community and the experience, and that is really what draws people. And also there's a definite set of, not a set, but a sense of setting goals for yourself and being able to achieve that. And that's such a thing to be proud of, I think. So
yeah, I know for my husband and myself, we always have a race that we're preparing for. We've done a dozen marathons. I've done 8, and I can't count the number of half marathons and 10Ks and 5Ks. But we always have something that we're gearing up for, just to keep ourselves at a level and not get lazy, level of fitness. And that always makes you feel like, yeah, this is a good place to be in life. And I think I'm thinking about what you were talking about or what Kyle was talking about, how you see your parents. I know that my husband's boys, who are both in their 20s, are so excited when they see us post something on Facebook with a medal, or they see us, at the finish line of a race or something, and they don't think of us as being, well, they probably do think of us as being old fogies, but not as old as we, as most old fogies. So it is, it's a really cool thing to share with them because they're both athletes as well. So I'm real proud to be part of that community with, people who are celebrating life.
Yeah, that is what it sounds like. It is just celebrating life and health and fitness and our bodies and community, and it just sounds like such a positive experience. And I'm looking at, so we've been talking about running and race walking, and I don't want to scare people off because I'm looking at the sports that are involved, and there's bowling. I am a bowler, by the way. And there's wonderful things. Horseshoes, golf,
square dancing.
Racquetball, square dancing, table tennis, just fun stuff. There's some shotgun sports. There's a couple shooting sports. So definitely an archery, definitely a wide arrangement or abilities, I guess, that people can participate in, which I love. So you don't have to be a runner or a race walker.
Absolutely. There's something for everybody in every skill level. And now that we have power walking in the Huntsman World Senior Games, pretty much anybody who can move forward can participate in a sport and compete, which is pretty wonderful.
That leads me to my next question for you, Marianne. If I am. I was going to say, if I were a woman in midlife, well, guess what? I am. And I wanted to...
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So happy to be here. If I wanted to think about participating in this, what would you recommend that I do? Knowing that I'm not, I'm just kind of starting off and I was going to say regaining, but let's just say gaining my fitness level.
Excuse me. I think power walking is certainly an option for you. It is a very inclusive sport. There's really just one restriction, which is that you just don't run. You walk as fast as you can, and everybody can walk pretty much to some degree. And you'd have to be able to walk around the track, a number of times for the lower mileage events, and then make it through 3.1 miles for the longer event. So that's one option. If you said you're a bowler, that's certainly something that's available. Let's see, what other options do you think, Kyle?
Well, I mean,
depends on your interests and abilities, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, probably one of the sports with the lowest barrier to entry would be power walking. Mm-hmm. As long as you're able to walk and to move forward, you're certainly eligible and capable to compete there. But one of the things that I found that a lot of people do is, they might not consider themselves a master track and field athlete, but there's so many great events within track and field. You can run a 50-meter sprint. Mm-hmm. And get it over with.
Which I've done a couple of times.
Go out there, run as fast as you can, and it only takes about 8 to 10 seconds, and then you're done.
Or in my case, 35.
And so we see a lot of that. I mentioned earlier I had kind of worked on my dad at the same time as my mom, and he, he was an athlete as a youth, but his sport was also wrestling, and we don't offer wrestling, and he wouldn't want to do that anyways if we did. Right. But he chose horseshoes, and there was a sport that would work for him, and, pretty much every park in America has a horseshoe pit somewhere, and so he just kind of started to practice there and really got into it and built himself a pit in our backyard and and practices now when he has time. And so there's another sport that's very easy to enter. But, like Marianne said, and even like you said, Liz, you've got an interest in bowling. I think the key is to find something that you feel comfortable with, and start where you're at and work from there. If your expectations are that you'll show up and come away a champion right off the bat, you may be disappointed with those expectations. But if you start where you are and recognize where you're at and then build from there, I think you could almost pick anything and have some success in it.
Yeah, we have swimming, a lot of different swimming events. There's cycling. There's a hill climb, which may not be something that you'd want to do right off the bat, but there are cycling events. There's a 5K road race, as well as a 5K race walk and power walk. There's a half marathon if you're really, really feeling.
Wow, so you just really do have. Yeah, and I even saw bridge listed. So, I mean, there really is.
Bridge will work.
There really is such a wide variety. And I love that because there are so many different levels.
That's what's really cool when you walk into the packet pickup venue and you see all shapes, all sizes, all ages, all body types, and you just think it's so cool because these folks may not have thought of themselves as being athletes, but they are. They're competing in, and enjoying fantastic camaraderie and just having a whale of a good time. So it's a great destination for a vacation. I can't say that strongly enough. For sure.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. So the games this year are, it looks like October 8th through the 20th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And registration is open right now. We always open registration at the 1st of March, and then it always closes on the first day of September.
Okay.
So if there was any interest from yourself, Liz, hint, or from any of your listeners, now's a great time to make that commitment, and it's a great time to make the commitment because you can get in there and get registered, but you also have some time for preparation. So whatever that sport is that you decide is going to work for you, there's some time to get going. And if you're already competing in that sport at whatever level, then that's again, it's just there's time to get yourself ready and fine-tuned to compete. But yeah, so it's very easy to register. You just go to seniorgames.net and click on that register button, and you walk through the process very quickly and easily. And before you know it, you've got a goal set for yourself, and you're ready to get to work.
Yeah. And you're on your way to St. George.
There we go. Well, I will be sure to have the link to this in the show notes and of the podcast. And so listeners, you can go over and register. I am going to say that I'm really sorry I have to miss this year. I had one child graduate college in May and another one in August, and my vacation time has been used up. But
congratulations, you earned it. That's
absolutely
great. They've earned it.
Right. But I am looking at the 2019 dates, which should be a lot of fun. So
put it on your calendar.
Okay.
So I pulled up the schedule too, and I just wanted to bring this to attention. It doesn't look like you have to be there, like because the 8th through the 20th is quite a long time.
Correct.
So it's different.
Yes, that's a very good point that's worth emphasizing. The sports start and then stop, and a lot of times people, extend their stay. But in most cases, most tournaments are done in a 3 to 4 day time period. So if the 8th through the 20th sounds intimidating, don't feel like that's the case. Like I said, most tournaments are done in 3 to 4 days, and it's just a great time to come together and celebrate life and active aging and health and wellness, and very, very easy to be a part of it.
It's got me excited. I'm not going to lie. So I don't know. You may see me in 2019.
Okay,
that would be great.
We'll be looking for you.
So one final question for our episode for each of you. What does it mean to you to live a kick-ass midlife?
I love that idea. I think it is refusing to accept traditional concepts of what a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old person should be. I think our generation is really sort of reinventing what that means. And I'm going to cough, so I'm going to let Kyle answer while I take a sip here. Sorry.
That's okay.
I feel like if I could define what that means for me, I feel like we've kind of exemplified that and talked about it already, but I love the idea of not having to conform. You get to choose the life that you want to lead and the life that you want to live, and you get to choose that because you have the internal power, fortitude, whatever you want to call it, to do that. And I think that for some of us, somewhere along the lines, we forget that, and it's so important that we remember that, because we do get to choose. We do get to choose. There are circumstances, certainly, that are beyond our control, but we get to choose how we react to them. And, aging is inevitable, but growing old is inevitable, but growing up is not, Right. And I really believe that, and I believe it strongly, because every year I get to watch that and I get to see it. I'm 44 right now, so I'm not eligible to compete. But I will say that I'm so inspired by what I see, and when I turn 50, there's no question that I will be competing in something. And
we'll have wrestling in the games by then. Right?
We'll have added wrestling by then for sure. Yeah. But just that idea of you get to choose. You get to choose. I think that's so powerful, and we need to not only hear that, but we need to internalize that. We just need to know that that's the way that it is. We get to choose, and when you make that choice, that to me is living a kick-ass midlife.
Yeah. And I'm done coughing now, so I'm going to finish my thought. And this is going to sound really trite, but I think it's all about embracing all opportunities. Certainly, since my husband and I have moved to St. George, there have been abundant opportunities. There's an opportunity daily for living a fit and healthy lifestyle and serving the community and just, living a fulfilled life. And quite often that means doing things that you haven't done before. But, why not? So if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So the worst thing that could happen is that it's not a success, and that's okay. That's a learning experience. And I think living a kick-ass life is just refusing to accept the word no.
I love it. And that does not sound trite at all. None of it did. So
okay,
thank you. Good. Yeah. Well, Kyle and Marianne, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I'm so honored to have spent this time with you and have met you guys. And I really do hope that one day I get to meet you in person. So
yeah, I think I can speak for us both. We look forward to that. That would be awesome.
I want to have a sparkly skirt.
That's the next room in our house. We'll be happy to have you with us.
Thank you. Oh, how nice. I love the podcast world. I just really do. So thank you so much. And I was just getting ready to say, Marianne, I'm going to have to, try on a sparkly skirt. And so I want to race with you one day.
I'll send you the link.
Awesome. Yes. Thanks, you guys, so much.
Thank you, Liz. We really appreciate the opportunity.
All the best to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much, Kyle and Marianne, for joining me on this show. I hope, listeners, you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I have to tell you, I really am truly inspired and hope to make it out to the Huntsman World Senior Games. It really has given me something to think about while I'm on the treadmill and really trying to up my level of just exploring some race walking and seeing what that is all about. Join me next week as I bring you a conversation with a fellow podcaster. Her name is Jen Burtman. You can head over and listen to her on her podcast, Going There, where she dives deep into conversations that we normally don't have. And yes, she does go there. So she talks about fears and loneliness and challenges. And she and I had a beautiful Saturday morning together, just sharing a cup of coffee. And I cannot wait for the next episode. I know that you're going to love it.